Paths, Lesson 10, Feelings, Thesaurus II with Miss Love. Objectives. I can understand the intensity or different levels of emotions. I can understand how to use synonyms and antonyms to express myself. Schedule. First journal, next lesson, last exit ticket. So our journal for this lesson is, do you think emotions and or feelings have levels to them? For example, are there different levels of happiness? If so, what are they? So you don't have to use happiness, as I just use it as an example for you to kind of get the idea of what I'm asking here. You can talk about any emotion if you want to use just one emotion as an example so you can kind of formulate your thoughts. So just think about the different things, the different emotions that you feel on a regular basis, and just think about the different levels of those emotions that you felt over time. When the next slide comes up, there is going to be a timer that starts. Once the bar turns completely red, your timer is up and we will move to the next slide. So in this slide, we're going to use this example, this picture, to kind of go through the different words and levels for emotions. So I want you to pay attention to the spiral, make note of what is above boredom and what is below boredom. So boredom is operating as our divider. So the opposing feelings, antonyms or opposites, are on the opposite sides or on different sides of the word boredom. Boredom is kind of our neutral point, our middle ground. So words on the same side are synonyms. So the words that are on the purple side, those are synonyms to one another. So freedom and love and joy and enthusiasm could all be synonyms. And the words on the red side, they're all synonyms to one another. So anger, hatred, jealousy, rage, they could all be synonyms to one another. But the words on the opposite sides could be antonyms or opposites. So freedom and hatred are opposites, they're antonyms to one another. But even still, even though all of the words on one side are synonyms, they all still have different levels. So joy is at a different level, because if you can see that's at the top of the spiral, has a different level of, I guess, a positive feeling, if you will, than contentment, which is at the very bottom of the top portion. It's right before you get to the word boredom. So they have different levels, and that's why the spiral gets bigger, because those emotions grow bigger when you move up. but they also grow bigger when you move down on the opposite end of boredom. So let's say frustration is at a different level than powerlessness. Frustration is a smaller feeling of that negative emotion, whereas powerlessness is a bigger feeling. So that is kind of what I'm trying to get at when I say that there are different levels to emotions. They could all border around the same type of feeling, but they have different levels to them. There are different categories, if you will. So, and it can be different categories. Like happy feelings can be a category, and in that category, you might have happiness. You might have joy. You might have, it's the word, it's elation. So that's like probably the highest height of happiness. You were almost overjoyed in the category of happiness if you're elated. And then you could have another category that's calm, right? So calm is kind of our neutral ground. So you could have boredom in there, but you could also have the word content in there. So content doesn't necessarily mean you're bored, but you're just okay with what's happening. Nothing's really bothering you. Whereas boredom, nothing's bothering you, but you're not necessarily okay with it. You kind of want something to be going on. So that those are different categories you could place emotions into. So in this slide, it kind of illustrates what those feelings or emotions might present as. This is a state scale. So your state of being, it's a scale from 0 to 10. 0 being probably the most unpleasant feeling and 10 being the best feeling. And if you could see, just by looking at the pictures, you could see how that common ground, that splitter between 4 and 6, would be where boredom was on that other scale. But you can see right there where it shifts. That number 4 is unhappy. And you can see by the face that they present as what typically unhappy would look like. And satisfied is a smile, right? There's no frown there, so it looks different. But this just further illustrates how those emotions have different levels, because you can see that 8 and 10 are different, right? They're different, but they have that same happy feeling. They're in the same category, I would say, of happiness, but they're different nonetheless. And 0 and 2 are different. They're very different, but they're still in the same category of unhappy. Now, I'm just using happy and unhappy as an example. There are so many different emotions that you can find categories for, but those are kind of the two that everybody knows and everybody can relate to at some point in time. So it just kind of illustrates those differences, and that we and in those differences we need to be able to understand where we are in those levels, because you rise and you fall constantly, because our emotions rather are a reaction to what is happening around us. So sometimes we could be happy, right? And something happens and we get even more happy, or something happens and we get less happy. We don't get sad. We're just not as happy as we once were. So I want you to think about that and think about those different levels. Think about synonyms, think about antonyms, and I'm going to go ahead and jump into our exit ticket for this lesson. Our exit ticket for this lesson is I want you to give me 5 pairs of emotions that not what you think other people think, but that you consider antonyms. And tell me why. Tell me why you think they're different, they're opposing, they are not the same. They're on different ends of a spectrum, okay? And you're going to post your response to the assignment that's titled Lesson 10, Feelings Thesaurus II, Exit Ticket. I look forward to getting your responses.